listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
You're watching the mother of all talk shows, and we're still waiting for Prime Minister Imran Khan. I see that Mr. Shabazz from PTI has tweeted in the last few minutes that there was no scheduled appointment with me this evening. Unfortunately, Dr. Shabazz, I have all the correspondence. I have the booking. Don't make me publish it. Get Imran Khan on the line, please. It'll only take him 10 minutes and it will be worth the trouble. He says that they'll rearrange something, but in the words of Tom Hagen, I never asked for a second interview when the first one has been declined. Will Imran Khan return as Pakistan Prime Minister? A, yes. B, no. There's a tremendous number of people voting on this, Mr. Shabazz Gill. Take a look at the voting. Mahmoud is in China. Let me hear from him. Mahmoud in China, welcome.
Hello, sir. It's good to see you talking about Imran Khan. I never imagined that he would be this much famous. Hello?
Well, I've known him for a very long time. He wasn't politically famous when I first met him. Of course, as a sporting hero, he was enormously iconic. But he has patiently, tenaciously, with great courage, built a massive political movement in Pakistan and amongst the diaspora all over the world. And you're in China, and I'm going to infer that you're a part of it.
Okay, I just wanted to say something. I don't know if I heard it wrong. You said he was removed because he said absolutely not on the issue of Russia. But it wasn't that. It was because he said absolutely not when a journalist asked him to if you will provide air bases to USA to help them with Afghanistan. So he said absolutely not.
He was just, of course. But he also said absolutely not to the sanctions on Russia. In fact, he made a very beneficial deal for the people of Pakistan for Russian gas and for Russian wheat. And the United States cannot tolerate China with close relations, super close, with China and now with Russia at the same time, for the reasons of air bases, for the reasons of sanctions, for the reasons of Afghanistan, and the use of Pakistan once again as a launch pad for attacks on Afghanistan. It's because Imran said absolutely not on these things that he has been overthrown. Go ahead.
Okay, so now my question is: a lot of people in Pakistan they don't believe on this change of government that it happened. It is done from USA, you know. So what do you think of this? Like, do you know about the letter that he received and stuff like that? Do you think it's true and he was removed just because of the pressure from
I absolutely think it's true. Look, I've known many coups, not just in Pakistan, but I suppose more of them in Pakistan than anywhere else. I know what a coup looks like. I know what a coup smells like and sounds like, and I know what a military-backed coup looks like and smells like, and if it walks like a duck, looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And this is a duck, a regime change ordered by the United States, executed through the Chief of Army Staff and utilizing the tools, the stooges of the discredited political parties. That's my view. Before I go to Kaiser in Glasgow, Ramin Shahzad, thanks for an informative show, George. Just wanted to say one thing. As a Pakistani, I'm happy to see we're now united as a nation. Imran Khan has made us forget all our differences. This imported government underestimated the power of Pakistanis. They did not predict that we could be this strong and it's now time to show our strength. Our response to this illegitimate regime change is loud and clear from the Lahore Jalsa. We are not beggars, and we will not accept an imported government. And Tariq Ahmad says, what's UK and EU take on the regime change? Silence was golden, Tariq. Syed says, how does Imran Khan expect to come back when almost everyone in the country, including the establishment, judiciary and election committee, is against him? Well, everyone except all the millions on the street, Syed. Let's go to Kaza in Glasgow. Go ahead, Kaza.
Hi, George. How you doing?
Good, brother. Nice
George,
to hear from you. What would you like to say?
Yes.
Yes.
George, I'm listening to you for number of years in this country, in UK. Well, the pleasure to have talking to you right now. Right. Obviously, Imran Khan is not there. And I'll leave the message with you.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, of course. Right. If he comes in and if I have enough time for you to put my message through, the first message I have to say to him is loud and clear, is number 4 gate in Pakistan have to be closed. If not closed, if without Imran Khan's permission, we are going through as a public, as the innocent Pakistanis, because we all feel wounded and hurt. And the second one is we had a big project in Pakistan, including myself, of building 500 rooms in Gilgit-Baltistan. And I put that on hold. And I will not spend, or none of my colleagues or businessmen people in this country will not send a £1 into the country until Imran Khan is back. And the third,
well, I think that's. I mean, if I had any money, Kaza, I certainly wouldn't be investing it to a country run by Shahbaz Sharif, would you?
Of course not. Of course not. You know, believe me, George, we are Muslim League supporters from my dad to my granddad. My dad spent 3 years in a prison for Nawaz Sharif. Okay, so that's all changes. Like somebody just says to you, Imran Khan, bring the politics into the tables in the hotel rooms, into the living rooms. It's not a public politics in the parliaments anymore. And we will decide, we will be the Supreme Court, we will be the High Commissioner, we will be the Election Commissioner, whoever they are. If this is not sorted, we are going through their doors without Imran Khan's permission. That's where we're standing right now.
Well, that's very powerful talk, Kazar. If we get Imran, I'll certainly convey that to him. We don't want any violence, of course. What we want is mass political power. You know, when you can gather people in the millions, and when that becomes the tens of millions, that's a human tide that will sweep all before it. And not a blow needs to be struck. Not a window needs to be broken. I'll be back for the second hour right after this break with, I hope, Prime Minister Imran Khan. Keep your fingers crossed.
Voting has just closed in the French presidential election, with exit polls predicting a shock result. And I can tell you that the far-right Marine Le Pen has been narrowly defeated by incumbent Emmanuel Macron. French voters were faced with two very different visions for their country during Sunday's presidential runoff election, as the centrist President Macron sought to fend off a challenge from Le Pen. Macron pitched a vision of a globalised France at the head of a strong European Union. Le Pen put forward an economical, nationalist, more inward-looking platform that would represent a fundamental shift from the direction France has since taken since the Second World War. This was a rematch of the 2017 contest where Macron bested Le Pen by nearly 2-1. This one is predicted to be much closer. Macron's attempt at diplomacy over the war in Ukraine took him away from the campaign trail, while Le Pen was forced to backtrack on her previous support for President Vladimir Putin. She has long been a vocal admirer of the Russian president, even visiting him during her 2017 campaign, and her party took out a loan from a Czech-Russian bank several years ago. Le Pen put herself in a strong position by focusing on cost of living issues, veering away from the typical far-right platform focused on immigration, security and identity that dominated her 2017 campaign. However, she did not abandon some of her most controversial policies, like banning Muslim women from wearing headscarves in public. Removing Prime Minister Boris Johnson from Downing Street would lead to instability and uncertainty in the country, according to the Conservative Party's chairman. The Prime Minister has come under increasing pressure from MPs after being fined by the police for attending a party in Number 10 during the first lockdown. Some senior Tories have now joined opposition calls for Prime Minister Johnson to go. Oliver Dowden said changing leader right now would not be in the national interest. The party chairman said the UK faced unparalleled challenges over national security and energy supplies. Labour's Angela Rayner has condemned in Imo State, southern Nigeria, when they were. This was a rematch of the 2017 contest where Macron bested Le Pen by nearly 2-1. This one is predicted to be much closer.
Of millions. That's a huge of the discredited political parties. That's my view. Before I go to Kaiser in Glasgow, Ramin Shahzad, thanks for an informative show, George. Just wanted to say one thing. As a Pakistani, I'm happy to see we're now united as a nation. Imran Khan has made us forget all our differences. This imported government underestimated the power of Pakistanis. They did not predict that we could be this strong, and it's now time to show our strength. Our response to this illegitimate regime change is loud and clear from the Lahore Jalsa. We are not beggars, and we will not accept an imported government. And Tariq Ahmad says, what's UK and EU take on the regime change? Silence was golden, Tariq. Syed says, how does Imran Khan expect to come back when almost everyone in the country, including the establishment, judiciary and election committee, is against him? Well, everyone except all the millions on the street, Syed. Let's go to Kaza in Glasgow. Go ahead, Kaza.
Hi, George. How you doing?
Good, brother. Nice
George,
to hear from you. What would you like to say?
Yes.
Yes.
George, I'm listening to you for a number of years in this country, in UK. Well, the pleasure to have talking to you right now. Right. Obviously, Imran Khan is not there. And I'll leave the message with you.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, of course. Right. If he comes in and if I have enough time for you to put my message through, the first message I have to say to him is the loud and clear is number 4 gate in Pakistan have to be closed. If not closed, if without Imran Khan's permission, we are going through as a public, as the innocent Pakistanis. Because we are all being wounded and hurt.
As Pakistan Prime Minister.
And the second one is we had a big project in Pakistan, including myself, of building 500 rooms in Gilgit-Baltistan.
Nigeria
I ask with all respect. We love Imran Khan. We're Pakistan. Because they're certainly not going to learn it from the BBC or Sky or ITV or Channel 4 or the Daily Telegraph or the London Times. This is not just the only, but by far and away the biggest platform trying to help Imran Khan. We're trying to be a platform that can inform people in Western countries exactly what happened in Pakistan, because they're certainly not going to learn it from the BBC or Sky or ITV or Channel 4 or the Daily Telegraph or the London Times. This is not just the only, but by far and away the biggest platform that Prime Minister Imran Khan could have appeared on in the English-speaking world, and there's still time for him to do that. Before I go to our next guest and switch gear a little, I need to encourage you again to make a donation. And I want to stress this point. I don't want a big donation. I really don't. I want you to give £1 or $1, even less than £1, to keep the mother of all talk shows going. We already lost the midweek extra, replaced by, from my living room, the Galloway show, free to air, no budget television. We lost the MOATS extra for financial reasons. Don't make us lose the mother of all talk shows. Think where you'd be on a Sunday night if we were not here. Think how bereft of a different point of view you would be. So it is coming up on the screen. It is ever easier. Next week it'll be even easier. You can actually text your donation in from your phone. Now there's, I think, 10 tickets left in for the Oxford showing of my film Killing Kelly in Oxford Town Hall tomorrow night. There it is, Oxford Town Hall, 7 p.m. Everybody in Oxford knows where the Town Hall is. It's a very grand building indeed, and also a building in which I've had some of my very best public meetings. So I think there's about 10 seats left. Please make sure you get them. Snap them up between now and tomorrow. My favourite, my bonnie lies over the ocean. It's Caleb Mopan, my former colleague and the founder and director of the Centre for Political Innovation in the United States. He's basically seeking to build a party, a patriotic and socialist party in the United States of America. And I pray to God that he succeeds. Caleb, welcome to the show. It must be even more difficult in the United States in these heightened days of war fervor than it is here in Britain. But I've got to tell you, I think the Ukraine mania has begun to wear a bit thin on this side of the ocean. How goes it over on your side?
Oh, we're observing exactly the same thing. Just right now as we speak, we have an outreach team at the White House near, in Washington, D.C., handing out leaflets. Russia is not our enemy. Wall Street is. We've been doing that in New York City and around the country, and we are getting a very positive reaction from people. At the beginning, sure, there was this surge of emotions from mainstream media, but that's starting to break. People are really sick of it on some level. And a lot of people are watching American news and saying, this looks an awful lot like propaganda. Every Russian is portrayed as a vicious, evil murderer. Every Ukrainian, even though some of them are Nazis and they have an official Nazi division, every Ukrainian is portrayed as a heroic fighter. American news is so obviously war propaganda at this point. A lot of people are sick of it and aren't buying it and are open to hearing another side. And that's why we've seen the big crackdown on voices like RT, on YouTube channels, and others who are daring to show the other side, because people are hungry for it. People are very, very hungry for it.
Yeah, I was going to turn to that latter issue, and I will, but let me look at, if you like, the corollary of that. The media, which has not been cracked down upon, is cracking up under the pressure of mass boycott. CNN Plus is to close when its audience reached 10,000 in the whole world. 10,000. And it's now closed down. The corollary is also true, isn't it? That it's not just that news that people might find more trustworthy cannot be found, but the official news nobody wants to watch.
Sure. I mean, Netflix is also losing subscribers. Elon Musk has become kind of a hero on social media because he's beating the drum about how obnoxious the pounding of woke ideology into the heads of the masses, whether it's from CNN, whether it's from Netflix, whether it's from the social media giants, is becoming. Average Americans are sick of this, and they're looking at the fact that the gas prices are rising. They're looking at the cost of food, and they're getting sick and tired of it. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of working class young people in the United States who bought into it. And during the pandemic, they went out and they protested and they rioted and they raged against racism and stood up against the police state. But now they're looking at their lives and saying, okay, a lot of windows were broken. Okay, a lot of anger has been made. A lot of social media posts have gone viral. But have our lives gotten any better? Have things really improved for American working families? And a lot of working people in the United States, a lot of working class youth are saying, no, they haven't really gotten better. And when it really gets down to it, wokeism is a false messiah. It's coming in and promising to rejuvenate the country, to offer redemption. If you just say all the right buzzwords and all the key phrases, you know, the curse hanging over U.S. society from its foundations of slavery and genocide of the Native Americans will somehow be lifted. But it's a false messiah, they're realizing, because at the end of the day, the problem is economic. The problem is the economic foundations, capitalism, and a system of production organized for profit. And you're not going to get rid of that with buzzwords. And you're not going to get rid of that with workshops, you know, where people talk about their emotions and feelings. You're going to have to address the economic foundations of the problem. And when it gets down to it, our leaders here in the United States do not care about the working class. They don't care about working families. Their only concern is enriching the profits of huge multinational corporations. And they are waging economic warfare around the world in the form of sanctions. They've escalated this Ukraine crisis, taking us to the brink of World War III. They don't care about the consequences for working people here or around the world. And the problems are in the economic foundations, not the buzzwords, not the phrases, not going back and adjusting Disney movies to make them politically correct. That's not going to solve the fundamental problem.
We truly are two hearts that beat as one, Caleb, and I thank you for that soliloquy, which could as powerfully have been made here in Britain and maybe in other European countries also. And particularly for what you said on that wave of outrage, that upsurge that took place over the last year or so in the United States. It went up like a rocket, but it came down just a burnt stick, didn't it? A lot of property trashed, but nothing changed at the end of it, because that doesn't bring change. Minding your pronouns doesn't bring political and economic change. And until people see that and unite with people who are maybe clumsy with their pronouns, or maybe clumsy with their attitude to the various sexual orientations that I increasingly discover exist, at least on rainbow flags and on Twitter and so on. There's ways of doing things I never knew existed. And fair play, let 1,000 flowers bloom. We want to interfere in no one's personal life. But until we can unite everybody against the one thing that oppresses everybody, we're not going to make any progress, are we?
Absolutely not. And the scary thing is that at this point, there is a pending global food crisis. You know, Ukraine is a wheat-producing country, and because of the conflict that the United States has provoked there and is now escalating, pouring more weapons in, their wheat output, according to a lot of sources in Russia, their wheat output is going to be roughly 50% of what it usually is. And if you add to that the fact that Russian fertilizer has been held off because of the sanctions from the United States, if you add to that the fact that we're at this point in the United States anticipating a lot of droughts and wildfires all throughout farming states in the Midwest of the United States, there's going to be a global food crisis. There's going to be food shortages. And this is an emergency. And our leaders should be convening an international meeting about how to resolve this food crisis. There's already been malnutrition-related deaths rising on the African continent due to the pandemic. But what's coming up is going to be a meltdown of the global food apparatus, food production, and our leaders don't seem concerned about it. It's shocking to me to watch, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and your leaders in Britain and, the leaders of NATO. They realize that their actions escalating with Russia are going to cause people to go hungry, not just around the world, but in the Western countries themselves. And they don't seem at all concerned about this. The USA has been waging economic warfare against Venezuela. They grabbed Alex Saab off of his airplane because he was trying to arrange, allegedly, for Iran to export food to Venezuela. The USA